Hi, everyone. Welcome. Carl Steinbeck here. Hope you're having a good federal holiday in the middle of the week here if you're from America, here in America. And I thought I'd jump on here and cover something tonight that I've been thinking about lately. It's a data point that I think would be important for the prosecution to bring up in the upcoming trial for Donna and any subsequent Adelsons. And that's having to do with how this hit went down on Professor Dan Markel almost 10 years ago, July 19th. Next month, it'll be the 10th year that has passed since Professor Dan Markel of the FSU Law School was gunned down in his garage by hitmen from Florida that drove all the way up from the Miami area. They were contract killers by the Florida Adelsons. And we've had them put behind bars and justice brought to them, but there's still a number of folks that still need to be prosecuted. We do have Donna Adelson, who's behind bars right now in Leon County Jail, which is in Tallahassee, Florida. Her trial's in about 3 months for the murder of Professor Dan Markel. But there's other Adelsons involved in this as well. It was a family affair of those Florida Adelsons anyway. And so what I want to talk to you tonight about was how this issue of how he was actually killed was really untypical for how someone that wants to have another person killed and is premeditating it would go about deciding actually how the murder would take place. Normally, if someone wants to kill someone, they're going to premeditate it. Unless they're part of a gang, because a gang wants to send a message and they want the other gang that they're having a rival with to know that it's them. So there's no question it's a gang rivalry hit. But why would you have a hit on a professor in his garage of all things? Why wouldn't you make this thing a random hit? Why wouldn't you make it look like a random burglary, a random assault kind of thing? But it was very specific, targeted, and personal against Professor Dan Markel. So I thought it would be good for the prosecution if they would bring this up. The point being that the reason why it was a targeted killing is because it needed to play into second and third order effects for what the Adelsons had up their sleeves. Keep in mind, after the murder happened, within 2 days, the ex-wife, Wendi Adelson, she was gone. She took off from her house in northern Tallahassee there. She took off for Florida, already had the condo set up by her parents conveniently ahead of time. And what happened else? She had to have some cover. She had to have cover on, could it be me? Could I be next? Because if there was a random killing, she wouldn't be able to say that. So if you look at the fact that a targeted killing was very specific, it looked very personal. So under that kind of killing, she was able to then parlay that into saying, well, look, it could be me. I could be next. The boys could be next. So it gave her an immediate excuse to take off and go down to her new condo that she had strategically set up beforehand with her parents funding it down in the South Beach area. And she also had the ability to not have to deal with the police anymore. She got to skip town, not have to deal with them, not have to worry about them showing up at her house, not to be bothered with it. She just up and vanished, fled, if you will, for South Beach, Miami, which is where she wanted to be all along. She wanted nothing to do with Tallahassee. She hated it. She hated enough to write a book about it. And so when you look at the fact that the targeting of Dan was really a requirement for this murder job. We don't have the specifics. It hasn't been brought out specifically by either Katie, the middleman, or we haven't heard from the actual hitman, who is Sigfredo Garcia, spending life without parole there in the Florida Department of Corrections. And we don't think that the other one involved with Sigfredo, Luis Rivera, that he actually even knew about the instructions. But I think it looks very evident that the instructions would have been given by the Florida Adelsons to make sure you don't make this look like a robbery gone wrong. It's got to be targeted, because that would play into these second, third, fourth order effects for Wendi Adelson to be able to flee, like I say, down there. And it also supports the theory that it could be somebody local there. Maybe it was Jeff Lacasse that was doing this, and maybe she's next, or maybe this is also going to play into the fact that changing the boys' names. If this was a random killing, you would have no halfway plausible basis to change the two boys' names from their father's name of Markel to Adelson. So by making it a targeted killing, if you stop to think about it, it actually was a perfect pretext to be able to accomplish all those goals. Flee right away, because you could say, I could be next. Tallahassee police can't provide 24/7 protection. Of course, they had millions in the bank. She could have had her own protection. And think about it, if this is a random killing, there's no reason to go anywhere. If Dan was just shot somewhere out in public and it was maybe some kind of drive-by shooting or some kind of robbery gone bad, and if they would have taken just something as simple as wallet, it would change the whole trajectory of this investigation, and she would not have that cover story to be able to flee like she did. So I think that's something that if I was prosecuting this case in Texas, that's something I would definitely be pursuing, is the angle that, look, this was so thought out and calculated that they also wanted Dan to actually even face death directly, face the threat directly. If you stop to think about it, what we heard in the trial testimony, that Dan was actually raising his hands up. So he had a face-to-face confrontation with his killer, a Pearl Harbor type murder attack, professional type hit on him that they tried to accomplish. Just like there was a Pearl Harbor type attack on him on his marriage with those divorce papers put on his bed when he was up in New York City. And when he calls him to say, hey, I'm divorcing you, and then hangs up the phone and he's scrambling to come back and find out what's going on. So it was really personally targeted to upset him. And I think there was actually some kind of sick glee to actually see him and have him face his killer face to face and realize death is imminent. And so I think that's really plays into the fact that how targeted this was to make it look like they could have to flee and accomplish all these other goals. And they did, in fact, change the names of the boys. They filed for it within months. Wendi signed the paperwork at the court saying she's reverting back to the original name of the boys, which is not the case at all. The two boys were born with the last name of Markel, and they didn't need to have the name change. And what would that even accomplish? Even if it was a targeted killing, why would that accomplish if they had her name? If they're going to go after Wendi next, wouldn't the boys be with her as an Adelson? So why would the Adelson name accomplish anything? And then you look at also taking out the middle name of the boys that had a connection to the Markels. So it's a really sick, despicable thing to do. And you think about the viciousness of it. You follow the hate, and the hate leads you to who done it. And who done it in this case has the Florida Adelsons all over it. And mind you, there's more prosecutions coming forth. 2024 is going to be a game changer for these other Adelsons. I think we're going to see impending arrest and prosecution of at least Wendi by the end of this year as well. So it's been long awaited. It's been long overdue. It's nauseating to think about it, but things are working in Tallahassee for improvement. I think Jack Campbell is rising to the challenge. I think he realizes he got the team in place. He's got the evidence in place. And to keep in mind, we have not even seen all the evidence that they have to date against the remaining Adelsons, from Donna to Wendi to also Harvey. So I think good things are going to be coming out after Donna's conviction. And I think that no matter what they try for Donna, I understand some people were telling me there's some commentary going on about how Donna needs to do this or that for her trial. It doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference. She's going down just like Charlie, her son. And so you'll have two Adelsons convicted in a couple months. And then it's time to bring out the big guns and go after Wendi, the real mastermind behind this whole thing. And so I expect that to happen. I don't think they're going to let her get within minutes of fleeing the country like Harvey and also Donna almost accomplished. So, but for some tip off of some local there in Miami, they would be out of the country and it probably never be prosecuted, neither one of them. So at least they were able to nab Donna, but the wheels of justice need to speed up here sooner, and I think they will be. So I think good things are coming ahead for the latter part of this year. And like I say, Donna's going to have a rude awakening once she's convicted, and we look forward to that. John is going to be covering this as well with live feeds there from Tallahassee. And I look forward to covering that as well with the day-by-day commentary and analysis. By the way, thank you for those of you that alerted me that somebody looked like it was me posting a comment on my channel saying that you should call this financial advisor, whatnot. That is not me. It's some kind of AI bot or something that added a dot after my name, and they actually created it so it looked like me commenting. I will never advise you to go to any other kind of financial person or business or anything like that, or any kind of business whatsoever. I'm strictly about helping push the cause for justice for the Markels, along with my producers, brother John and nephew Ben. So thanks to you guys. Also, thanks to the mods. I haven't thanked you yet as well. We have Roxanne and Private Eye Posse. Those are terrific mods. And keep in mind, we need mods because we do have a lot of trolls that are firing away at not only this channel, but others as well. They're hired bots and maybe folks from other third world countries that are trying to change the narrative and the demands for justice, that more Adelsons need to be arrested and prosecuted and brought to justice. So it just means we're over the target when we get flack like that. So appreciate all you guys are supporting this cause. And I see a lot of familiar faces. I call us the Justice for Dan family. And you guys are really remarkable. And so I really appreciate you guys doing that for the Markels. They're wonderful people. And if you haven't met them, if you haven't gone to the trial, take my word for it and John's word for it. Anybody that's met them, I mean, they're really humble, gracious people, and they did not deserve this. And I also was almost came on Father's Day because as a reminder that it's another year that we've had where Dan Markel is not with his boys, but even just as tragic is the fact that their grandfather, Phil Markel, has not been with the boys on a regular basis. And they've never been up to Canada to see any of their family members up there. So it's a real tragedy, but it's something that's going to give a lot of inflammatory motive for the prosecution to bring out in the trial of any and all Adelsons that this was done to strip every and each of the Markels out of the lives of the two boys, the two young boys that were 3 and 4 at the time their dad was gunned down in his garage. So it's a very tragic situation. It's one of the most bizarre true crime cases you ever cover. There's a lot of bizarre commentary all over the map. And so anyway, I just, those of you that are new to this case, I urge you to dig in and look for a lot of details because there's so many minutia of details and stuff like that. And I'm trying to cover a lot of those. And one of the things I'm looking at covering in the near future, as well as going through the list one by one of indicators that I see that indicate Wendi Adelson's involvement as a part of a planner, and I would say the master planner, initiator for this murder of Professor Markel. So with that, I would say also that if you have any questions, go ahead and post your questions. If you can put a red emoji, I'll be able to distinguish it easier if you have questions among yourselves or comments among yourselves. So with that, I'm going to scroll down to what the current time is now, 8:15. True crime wifey, I think that's a really nice comment you have here. I have a huge heart for this community. People care so much. It's personal, though I've never knew Dan Markel. Tallahassee was rocked by this murder. We care. Yes, thank you. And I know that Phil and Ruth oftentimes watch his channel, if not live on rewatch. So shout out to you guys as well. It's great to see all this loving support for those wonderful the wonderful people that never deserve this, nor the boys. So it's still an ongoing crime, as I call it, the way the boys are treated and denied visitation and just stripped of everything that has to do with the honorable Markel name. Okay, Rosemary Romero saying, even though Wendi has use and derivative use immunity, how come she keeps testifying in trial and says she can't get arrested? Well, that's just her opinion of it. So that's not to bar her. That's not something that they have to worry about not being able to pursue. The fact is she's lied and lied and lied over and over again in multiple trials. She keeps getting worse. Her testimony is more incredulous, more out an absolute outraged lies that are being told. And so she can be prosecuted for perjury. And I would really be disappointed if the state attorney's office doesn't pursue that. So the fact that you have statutory immunity conferred on you as a witness, if you're called by the state, it does not mean you have a license to lie. No one has a license to lie in any particular state. You have to pursue it though as a prosecutor. And I think they will. I think it's the absolute right thing to do. And should be getting at least 30 years if for each count, because ultimately she's lied in multiple murder trials, and for murder trials, the penalty is much more aggravated and a higher sentence that the judge can impose. So I would really expect that to be this the thing that the state attorney's office does here in the coming months at the end of the year. Jeannie, Crime Junkie, do you think it's a coincidence that Wendi changed the kid's name one day away from Harvey's 71st birthday? I do not think it was a coincidence at all. Yeah, I think she filed it right beforehand. I don't think it took effect actually till a number of months later, but I think the filing was on hand. So that might have been part of the birthday present as well that we've heard trial testimony about, that the Adelsons can't even describe what he got for his 70th. I think it was his 70th birthday, not his 71st, if I stand corrected on that. I apologize. But anyways, one of the two, it was his birthday. It was a big memorable celebration for him. And yet they can't even remember what they got him for a gift. And yet, we heard about the banana bread cake that that Donna had made for Dan before they murdered him. So anyway, just a lot of selective memory stuff like that is going to come back to bite the Adelsons at trial. So, Kath, Cynthia Carter's asking, is Charlie in isolation? We don't know what his status is. They have a real lockdown information by statute in South Dakota. They don't give that kind of information out, unfortunately. So I did call up there. I did try to find any details, and they would not provide any of that doing a media inquiry like that. Patty N is asking, do you think Wendi wants to move the boys to Texas to avoid the Markel Act? That could be a factor as well. And we know that she was very angry about that law passing. You remember her last testimony at her brother's trial, Charlie Adelson. She called it unconstitutional of all things. And the judge had that stricken and somewhat rebuked her, as I recall. Mama B is asking, do you think Wendi is taking Harvey when she moves? Well, we don't know for sure if she's moving. I think that was the intent, but since it's all getting out there in the public domain, maybe she'll do something different and not move out there after all. Time's getting close now if she still wants to get the boys enrolled in a school. So we don't know what's going to happen. Maybe she's still going to follow through on that. And part of it could be because of the Markel Act. We don't know for sure. And I'm not going to claim to have inside knowledge on that. No one really knows that, I don't think. So the dad's chair's asking, why do you think Wendi told this hitman joke to Lacasse and TV Guy? I think part of it was she was trying to do some kind of top cover. I think she was nervous. We heard how she was very upset, both the first time the hitmen were coming up there around the 4 to 6 June window. We heard from Jeff Lacasse talking about how she was very upset, nervous, acting very, very odd right around the time the hitmen were supposed to be there. We also heard how that when she told the joke about hiring hitmen, but she also said it in a serious mode. What is it, that Sunday before Dan was shot on a Friday? Very, very bewildered timing, and it's not a coincidence. It was all to leak stuff to basically try to make it look like, well, I said this because obviously I'm not involved. So I think she was like hedging her bets. I think she was nervous, trying to throw some clues out there to have her family targeted by the police instead of herself. So, and so far it's worked, but it's not going to work in the long run. That's the bottom line. Okay, Julia Nielsen's asking, do you think all four Adelsons were equally on board? Who's the architect, Don or Wendi? I mean, all the family of the Florida Adelsons, mind you, the ones that are in Florida, they're the ones that were very much they worked like a pack together. All kinds of information was always about how to do stuff for Wendi, how to help Wendi. And Wendi constantly was fueling her mom to then help prompt Charlie to do something about it. And Charlie couldn't turn down such an offer to be able to look so much like the great guy to fix the big problem that he kept on hearing about from his mom. And anyway, so as it turns out, what does he know about planning a murder? It was a complete botched job. It was a complete disaster. And granted, it was botched up initially, some by the law enforcement, but they recovered soon enough. But then you had the political aspects with the state attorney's office not willing to do something about it to bring the other Adelsons to justice. So many years have dragged on, and it's going to wind up speeding up here. I'm very convinced of that here in in the time frame, the end of this year, I would say. New Jersey beach lovers asking, do you think what they check Wendy's financials to see if she chipped in for the hit? Well, I think they wanted to keep her out of the hit. I think she was willing to contribute for the $1 million offer if Dan Markel moved to Florida, that they had talked about. But that was the only kind of money I think she paid out to the family, because I think they realized that they need to protect her from that, because she's going to be the number one person that law enforcement should look at naturally. You look at who's having custody battles and whatnot, and an ex or current spouse, and they're the number one person early behind a murder like this. And sure enough, that's what happened in this case. So it actually was consistent with the statistics. All right, the cats are outside. Okay, let's see here. Lorraine is asking, what are your thoughts on Charlie's reality? Finding out prison a lot different than jail. I hope the same for Donna, the domestic coordinator. Yeah, so she was calling herself the domestic coordinator when she was on a game show. I think it was the one with Pat Sajak, Wheel of Fortune, back in the 80s or 90s, was it? So I think Charlie's having a rough time wherever he's at. I talked about it last week. So if you want to go to my coverage last week, I talked about him being in the South Dakota State Pen. And there's going to be things that he's able to do to try to stay away from other gang members there. But ultimately, there's a good chance he is in isolation and running scared and afraid of these threats. And so it's a miserable existence for him. I guarantee you that. Okay, Jared is saying she had already changed their kids' names in August 2014 when she registered kids at school in Miami 30 days after Dan was murdered. Yeah, I think she maybe put their names down as that, but it wasn't legally done. I think it was legally done a number of months later. But yeah, the point being eliminating everything that has to do with the name, the honorable name of Markel, all for the purpose of getting complete wipeout and just the utter hatred of erasing the legacy, the honorable legacy of Professor Dan Markel, as well as all the other Markels as well, as and including the grandfather Phil. So yeah, it's just very despicable, evil stuff. Yeah. So Charlie girl, thank you. I think Wendy's going to get arrested, like I say, by the end of the year. I don't think they're going to let her slip through any longer. It's enough. They need to get it moving out and execute. They need to line her up. Haven't heard anything more about her plan to move to Texas, and I don't think we will until if and when it actually happens. But I would assume it's going to happen sometime in July if it does happen. Wesley John Holmes is asking, what are my thoughts on a new potential witness that could be called? Yeah, I think we'll have more type of forensic information that comes out. I know they did a return on the search warrant for the 2 tablets that came back with no information for the tablets of Harvey and Donna. But you're talking about tablets that are back from 2014. So I think that they're going to have, maybe not internally to the Tallahassee Police Department, but if they reach out, all they got to do is reach out to the FBI or maybe the other type folks there at the state headquarters, crime lab, whatnot. There is a way to extract Max tablet type things back to that date. So I see that there will be more information coming forward. So I think we will see more information like that. All right, we have here Alan is asking when Georgia showed Wendy the infamous beach photo. So the beach photo had to do with it showed a picture of Wendy being very close, shouldered and elbowed, arms touching with Katie, the middle person and involved in this murder plot. So they were both smiling. They had big smiles on their faces. And it says here, you're asking, she was laser focused on that as Georgia withdrew it. What do you think made captured her attention? WhatsApp, metadata, etc. I'm not particularly sure on that. I can't read her mind, but she's aware of that photo. Trust me, even though she's not been charged yet. Normally, until a criminal defendant is charged, they're not going to be able to see what's in the government's file unless you do like a freedom of information request through the state of Florida. But as as all these attorneys were cooperating, her attorney, who is John Laurel, he was able to see all this stuff from many years ago as it was coming forward. Because what did you have? Cooperation among all the defense attorneys. So the defense attorneys for a Sigfredo, for example, evidently were cooperating with the attorneys for the Adelsons. So why would you cooperate and share information like that unless it was part of conspiracy? So it's not something you can necessarily bring out at trial, but I think that that's definitely an indicator that something's fishy, that they would align themselves like that. So Julie's asking if there was only a perjury charge in Wendi, what would that entail? Would that entail an arrest? Yeah, definitely should be arrested. You don't need to have a grand jury for anything other than murder in Florida, so they would not need to have a jury assembled for that, a grand jury. And in fact, there may be a grand jury assembled already. They don't necessarily have to release that already. So there is a chance that, let's say, Wendy's already indicted for murder, but we don't know, and they can keep it under seal for a while. But that remains to be seen. But I do think it'll be released here, and she'll be arrested before the end of the year. And they could, if they had the perjury charges, yeah, she would be automatically arrested for that as well. If they did only arrest her for a charge her for perjury, that alone would bring her before a judge as well. But she would be able to post bond most likely if that was the only charge. I really do not see only perjury charges coming forward. I think they're going to go for murder charges that are most appropriate in this case. RN is asking, they assume they need Wendi for this trial. I think she's going to testify. I don't think they absolutely need her, but I think when they see how Wendi acts and when they start asking about her book and then what she was doing to string along Jeff Lacasse, I think that part of it is important. And I think Jeff Lacasse should be there. I expect him to be on the witness list as well. So he's going to testify again. And it just really begs the question, why didn't they at least, at a minimum, have Donna sitting there as a defendant, just like Charlie? So anyway, it's just taken way too long. And I think the state's probably realizing that it's really pretty much 2.0, other than the new search warrant data that they may want to present. I think it's really 2.0, and any jury would have convicted of both of them just as quick as they did Charlie alone. Okay, Jim is asking, if you were prosecuting case, would you call Adelson children to testify about what Donna said about Dan Markel? I don't know. I don't think they're going to remember at 3 and 4 years old, but they could remember stuff about things since then. And I mean, I would do it, but I just don't know that they go to that level of detail in a prosecution like this. I don't think they need it for Donna per se, but I think if you want to unturn every stone, I think that's something you could find out. For example, one of the things I'd be asking is, we heard Wendi talk about how they say prayers for their dad every night, and that pictures of their dad are above their beds. I mean, that sounds so contrived. I'd want to ask the boys that. Of course, they'd probably be coached and whatnot, but really, I would I'd be asking a lot of probing questions and whatnot to find out what's really going on. Is he ever mentioned at all in the house? I bet you he's never mentioned at all. But trying to get the truth out of kids like that, when you got a parent that's going to try to manipulate and control what they say, that can be really hard. So they may decide it's just not worth it, and they're not going to. The level of coercion on those boys would be like insurmountable. But I mean, they could always try and see what happens. You never know if you'll find a nugget there. Leslie Ann is asking, do I ever think Wendi will come clean about her role in the plot to murder to stay out of prison? It's the only chance she's got. I don't think so. I think she's been able to skate this time for so many years that she thinks she's untouchable. And I think if she goes to trial, I think she's, in her mind, she's going to walk. And there's nothing immoral that was done about killing of Dan Markel. She's not the one that pulled the trigger, and she's not the one that met the hitman or paid the hitman. So in her mind, morally, this was justified for whatever happened. Dan deserved it, and the level of hatred that she basically set into motion is something she just probably holds her head high and figures I don't have to worry about any of this kind of stuff. But I think once they charge her, it's going to be a rude awakening, and she will go down. There's no doubt in my mind she'll go down on these charges of murder. Rosemary's asking why is the reason you think Wendy doesn't get transactional immunity because is it because she hasn't admitted to helping Dan's murder? She hasn't admitted to her family members' involvement in Dan's murder. Well, transactional means you actually are given immunity from the actual crime itself. So they're not going to give her immunity for murder, complete immunity for murder when she was the main one behind it. So no, she's not gonna get that kind of immunity. She'll get the kind of immunity like she has before, which is use and derivative use immunity. So anything she testifies cannot be used against her. If the same information the state already has in their possession, the state can still use that information, but they can't get new information from her and then circle back and prosecute her for it under the statute. So it's very straightforward in how this operates, and I really think that the evidence would be very strong to show that she's lied enough times where they could get many decades of convictions against her. All right, we have Dina is asking, do you think Wendy really or Donna didn't really know anything about the grandma motion? Didn't Georgia say Wendy emailed the motion to 12 people, including Donna? Yeah, she nailed her because she was saying that this motion that Dan had filed, one of the motions, it was really something that it was not a big deal, but yet she then forwards it to 12 people. So yeah, that's a real big whopper of a lie right there. So there's so many different lies that you could just, I mean, just add them all up. It's in the many dozens. So it's definitely worthwhile to pursue. Okay, so here we have Crazy Joe Lowe's asking, is Wendy worried that the prosecutors will find in the Google search warrants that they were issued for Donna's email accounts, which may incriminate her? And could this be the reason for her move to Texas? I think she's feeling heat. I think she's maybe wanting to get set up there just in case she's arrested. Markel Act wouldn't apply there, kind of thing. And so I really think that there's a chance that she is feeling some heat internally, and I think that's why she's maybe wanting the kids to be with their cousins, and therefore she's going to have a chance to, if she when she gets arrested, if she gets arrested in her mind, she's thinking she's not, but as a backup plan, it could be a reason why she's moving to Texas, just sort of get Florida out of your mind. And then you got people like we saw the other day photographing her and Harvey and at a Whole Foods market. So maybe she's really agitated by the amount of coverage she's getting down there. But I think coverage is going to follow her wherever she goes, so that's not going to affect it. But I think she's maybe thinking she'll be less likely to call as a witness, and in the case if she's out of state or whatnot, remains to be seen. We don't know for sure, obviously, but all right. So let's see. So Dave Stark is asking, how does Wendy have a law license if she's an unindicted co-conspirator in a murder case? So the way it works in America is that unless you're charged as a lawyer, you're not going to be held accountable. They normally rely on court cases to run themselves through. You could initially do an initial interim suspension if the case is serious enough. Wish they could do that here, but she'd have to be charged for that. So unless she's being charged, they're not going to mess with it at the state bar level. Yeah. So Tia is saying that was Harvey 70. That's what I thought it was. So he'll be 80 on July 5th. Imagine that. So Diane V is asking what's going on with the Adelson family business while everyone's in jail. I'm not tracking that. I know that the dental office, the Adel Institute, has been shut down a number of years. They don't have any dentists left. Harvey's he can't practice. He's too old for that. And you have Charlie in jail. By the way, I see always a number of comments, people saying, well, Charlie can be a pro bono dentist in prison. And I'm like, no, he can't, because it's pretty obvious to operate as a dentist. What do you need? You need controlled substances. They're not going to give that to Charlie. He'd also have access to very sharp devices. So you're not going to give that to an inmate. That could be turned on, used as a weapon against a guard. It could be used against a weapon against other inmates, or used against Charlie himself. So that's just not going to happen. But I see that pop up on a regular basis. So that's just not realistic. Okay, so the two is asking what TV repairman would do a house call for a cracked screen. Yeah, that's a good point. It seems odd when they just tell her to get in TV. Well, that's why they had to have told Best Buy it was something different that had been covered under the warranty. Otherwise, if they say, "Hey, I got a cracked screen," Best Buy is going to say, "Well, sorry, it's not covered under warranty. Bring it in if you want to repair it, or go ahead and just buy a new one." So, oh, there's a little LJ behind me here. So anyway, who would have this kind of coverage on a TV? We heard Jeff Lacoste say it's more like a dorm style TV. So who's going to have like extended warranty coverage on a TV like that? It just doesn't. I guess you could, but it just seems like the whole thing was contrived. Really, it really does. And then the way the screen was broke on it and whatnot, it didn't look like a kid had thrown something at it. So in any event, all part of this ridiculous planning that they thought they could get away with. All right, so here we have Morph is asking, do I think Wendy will flee to a country to a no extradition country? Well, there's a chance. I don't know, and I'm not going to try to speculate on what she would do. But if they don't arrest her, maybe by the end of this year, maybe she's going to think, why do I need to worry about it? They don't have the guts to prosecute me. So I think that I think it's really something that they should take seriously, and they should keep tabs on her. Whether they're actually doing that or not remains to be seen. They just need to get the hurry up and get the indictment filed and the warrant for arrest issued. Yeah, New Jersey Beach Lover High. We don't know if the home security camera caught Wendy pulling up to the police tape at Trescott. I don't believe we've ever seen that, so I don't think it exists. Or do they have security cameras on our ABC liquors? I don't think they maybe even asked for it there, so that would have been interesting. But I don't know how much that would have shown. But yeah, we don't have any video coverage of her that day, other than when she went to the jail to talk to, or the police station to talk to Detective Isom. Yes, Celine, you're asking how long I think the trial will run for. Is it open to the public? Yes, it's open to the public. I would anticipate there is some seating available, and it'll be sort of a packed house. You might want to get there a little bit early if you plan to attend. But I think the trial will be about probably the same as Charlie's, maybe a day more at most, and or it could even be shorter. If they decide not to have uh, have her testify up there for over a day like Charlie did, then that could be a much shorter trial. But also depends like how many objections and motions there are and stuff like that during a trial. So in any event, that's one of the things I'll say about the Karen Reed case. I know a lot of you guys are watching that, and I've not really covered it much. I've talked to a few folks about it, but it seems like the prosecution case has been pretty much jacked up. They have had a lot of bad witnesses. That expert witness that testified did not have any kind of credibility whatsoever, and so I would say that they're not. It doesn't look like they have any kind of a case that is going to secure conviction. I think they're way overcharged as well. So that I've not really paid much attention to it, just bits and pieces here. But one of the things that I thought was really bothersome was the amount of objections that the prosecution does on that case. And I think as a prosecutor, you should minimize your objections. Let the defense have their day in court. And a lot of the questions that are objected to is really ridiculous, I think. And they don't even have to say why they're objecting, and the judge is ruling on it. I've never seen that before. That a prosecutor can object, and the defense attorney isn't even allowed to state the basis of the objection other than objection, and then the judge is going to make a ruling. So there's nothing to preserve the error of the court if the defense attorney is not allowed to make the premise, and also they don't know what the basis of the objection is by the prosecution. So it's just really odd to see that. It's disappointing, but I think in the end, it's not going to matter because they've had some really disaster witnesses for the prosecution. Yeah, Christina Anderson, you're saying, to be fair in these days, especially with somewhat common for professional women to keep their maiden name. Yes, that's true. I've seen that a lot in the military as well as in the legal profession. But that's the least of it. But to change his son's name is just wrong. I mean, it is so absolutely cruel and despicable. I mean, that's one of the top, I would say, daggers that goes against Wendy Adelson. The unmitigated gall to do that, the cruelty behind it. The jury will just be incensed. Mark my words. Sonia, you're asking if Wendy will get the death penalty. No, she won't, because the prosecution is already, after they didn't get the death penalty on the hitman, they decide not to go after it anymore. But I've talked about that before. I think that the Adelsons that were involved in this, I think every one of them is deserving of that. So, but they won't. So at least they need to go after him for murder one, right? Okay, we have a question from Mama B again. You're asking the state seem to have quite a few phone calls and texts from Charlie and Donna. Do you think they all have the same on Wendy, or do you think she covered herself from the beginning? Yeah, I think she covered herself from the beginning. I think she ignored a lot of those, but I think there's some that we have that we didn't hear about. Like one of the real critical ones we heard at trial was her asking of Dan when she was down the early part of July, "Hey, are you going to have the kids the week of the 14 to 16?" I mean, that was the window that the murder team was going to go up there to try to kill Professor Markel. So why would you send that text when you already had a scheduled visitation order? So that's very damning. That's very incredibly damning to her. So I think there's more that we don't know about. I think they're gonna unload a whole bunch of stuff on Wendy we've not seen before. And that's why it's really infuriating to see people saying, "Oh, they don't have enough against her. They're not going to charge her." When they've even admitted publicly, Jack Campbell's admitted, "You've not seen all the evidence we have." And so obviously they have more stuff there they're not sharing, and they're going to roll it out at the time she's indicted and brought to trial. Yeah, so this is sort of the same kind of thing, Rosemary. Yeah, there's going to be other evidence, digital evidence, emails, and I would not say wiretaps. They did not do any wiretap on Wendy per se, and but they do have other kind of digital evidence. I think that'll be brought out in Donna's trial and also Wendy's trial as well. Definitely. Yes, it'll be Judge Everett, which is a good thing. He knows his case very well. I think he knows the tactics of the Adelsons, and he's an excellent judge to shut it down. And so we look forward to having him. He's a great judge. He's very likable, capable, talented, and he's not gonna let the Adelsons pull these stunts through their counsel. Jim Parsons asking who is the intel source on when he's moved to Texas. I'm not going to get into that. So I have some idea how that might have happened, but just let's leave it at that. All right. So here we have, yeah, no, Life 3030 saying, will Harvey be allowed to wear a Nike cap when he's testifying, or hat's not allowed? No, you can't bring a hat into the courtroom. That's and wear a hat, especially when you're testifying. That's not what is allowed here in American courts, or pretty much any court, I imagine, worldwide. They're not allowed to do that. All right, so we have from Spire GFK. You say the to plan and commit a murder and to have the whole family involved is not a small task. One wonders, is this something that the whole family has done and with their past business dealings? Well, I think they had, if you listen to the tapes and how they conducted business, stuff like that, I think there's the indications they did fast and loose and sort of underhand in a lot of different stuff. And so, and Harvey, excuse me, Charlie, the way he advertised about connections with the criminal underworld and stuff like that. So, I mean, he was sort of like a gangster wannabe, and he wanted to be a tough guy doing this. So the thing is, nobody ever stood up and said, "You know what? We're not going to do this. It's flat out wrong. We're not going to kill the boy's father." I mean, that's like That's like so far off the charts, cruel to those boys, and yet nobody stood up for the boys. Not a single person in that family that knew about it. Those Florida Adelsons. So when you say the whole family, now keep in mind Dr. Rob Adelson. He's an outstanding doctor up in the Northeast. He had nothing to do with this. He has nothing to do with his family to this day. I think because he knows that they did it and they were acting suspicious, and that's why I think it'd be great to call him as a witness. That's the kind of stuff I do in criminal cases where I'm a prosecutor, defense counsel attorney, defense counsel, and that's the kind of stuff that wins cases. Trust me. So you need to get that kind of gritty level of detail, the granular detail of facts like that, and how the defendant acts and co-conspirator acts, their body language, the stuff they do, the stuff they say. All these kind of indicators are so revealing, and it really helps bring out a lot of great results at trial, and I've just never been disappointed, I can tell you that. Okay, Jim, you're saying that the rabbi said the worst thing that could happen to a Jewish person is have their memory erased, possibly a reason behind changes in the kid's name. Yeah, I mean, maybe that is part of it. I don't know for sure, but I think the ultimately it was the hatred that motivated them to kill was the same hatred that motivated them to change the names, the same one that motivated them to this day to maximize and disrupt any normal visitation that the Markel family of Canada has with their grandchildren and between their Shelley as well as Shelley's kids. So I mean, it's just so despicable the way you have that whole family tree just absolutely cut off in such a cruel and heartless way. Mm. Okay, here, Rabbit Ink is saying, I've asked him if I've seen the longer version of the Jeff Cast interview. He says Wendi was joking about Dan being shot in the head. She was at a wedding. It's been out recently. No, I have not seen that, but it would not surprise me if that's the thing that she said. And so, if any of you have any indications on that, the truthfulness of that being on the interview, but yeah, I'll talk about another. I can't help myself, and that slips out, right? Okay, Patricia, you're saying that you worry that jury will be more reluctant to convict Wendi than the other Adelsons because, ironically, she's the mother of boys who suffered so much. Your opinion? Well, I mean, basically, you'd have to give the premise that here in Florida courts, if you want to murder your the spouse that you don't like or ex-spouse that you hate their guts, go ahead and kill them because you know what? You're going to get to raise your kids until they're 18 years old. So why not just get away with 18 years of freedom before the state can prosecute? Maybe the evidence will be so old and degraded that maybe you'll never be prosecuted. So that sends a wrong message. And to think that these boys are being raised and brainwashed like they are, it's an absolute crime in and of itself. So, like I say, it's a crime against humanity for the boys. It's a crime against the Markels, and it's going to be one of the main things that the jury looks at to ultimately convict each and every one of these remaining Adelsons. So that's the only good thing about it. But the boys need serious counseling. Do you think they're in counseling or the fact that their dad got murdered? Killers don't do that kind of thing, right? They don't want to have the boys talk about how they hurt for their dad. They're told and assume that they just move on. It's like their bike got stolen. It's not a big deal if their dad gets gunned down in his driveway. So, all right. So we have here. Rosemary, you're again asking, do you think that Wendy was knowing the dance schedule the day of the murder? Well, I mean, she pretty much knew his routine pretty well, and she was able to provide the killers. And she also knew. Remember, he was also wanting to take the boys swimming that afternoon. The afternoon that he was shot. So yeah, it's like there's so much strange behavior there, and definite indicators that she knew the schedule and could pass it on. So yeah, that's another. There's so many indicators that I mean, you could talk hours and hours about them. So, um, yeah, I won't go into that, but yeah, that's sort of funny. Somebody's saying I'm looking tired. Well, I've been working out a lot today, and I was in a sauna, so that's probably why I'm looking tired. All right, so here we have. So Manny Jane is saying it's Donna's strategy to use Rashbaum so she can appeal. I mean, if Rashbaum flubs this thing up so bad with conflicts, I mean, he sort of has a free reign right now to create conflicts because it wasn't properly addressed at the court level. It was all yes no questions. I've talked about that before. So I think that that could pose a risk. I don't like the process that happened, but I think ultimately I'm hoping it's not going to be an issue. But you know, if I think no matter what it would be, it's never too late to go and clear up the record, make sure she understands that she's knowingly, voluntarily, and willfully giving up her constitutional right to conflict-free counsel. That's according to federal case law, and also the Supreme Court. So if she's not properly advised on what that means and can't articulate it and explain what that means, and is not having to answer questions about in her own mind, tell us what that means to you, kind of stuff, then I think it's at risk, but hopefully it's not going to be a risk where there could be some kind of reversible error. All right, so watercolor, Mama is saying Adelson's completely underestimated that their hatred overshadow any other possible scenario, blind and deaf to their glaring hatred. No one else's grudges could compare. I totally agree. Like I said at the beginning of this tonight, all you got to do is follow the hate, and it'll lead you right to the doorstep of the Adelsons there in Florida, right? So it's that simple. No one else had that kind of absolute murderous hatred of Dan Markel. And Wendi was about to crash and burn. We even heard from Stephen Webster a few days ago. I saw on Judy's channel. He was talking about he had already talked with opposing counsel, which means Wendy's counsel. He was Dan Markel's counsel in this upcoming hearing that was about to happen. He said he was trying to diffuse things because things were going to get really serious about Wendi and her job status, her bar status, and he was trying to like diffuse that and call up the council and say, hey, can cooler heads prevail? But there was none of that on the Adelson side. They wanted blood. And they wanted revenge, and that's what they pursued. And look what happened. Aunt Nancy saying, "Do I suspect when he's currently under surveillance?" No, I don't think so. But they might do it right after Donna's arrested if they haven't charged her by then. It would be great if they arrested her right after she testifies, but who knows? It better be right after she's convicted because otherwise she could very well flee. Just don't know, but I wouldn't risk it. They almost lost out on Donna. Really, but for a neighbor tipping them off, Donna and Harvey would have been gone for good. So that's a scary thought, right? Man and Jane, you're asking, would you I think the state will call Harvey to testify at Donna's trial? I wish they would. I just don't think they probably will. And do they absolutely need him? No, but if he's going to be called as a witness, you could basically do the same kind of thing, impeach him on the stand like you did for Wendi, and bring out all these lies. So if I know somebody's lying, I don't have to interview him ahead of time. A good seasoned trial attorney can just rip them to shreds if they know the facts of the case well, and just give a lot of stump to chump type of questions to Harvey, and he's not going to be able to. He will not do well on the witness stand. Trust me. So you just keep digging and digging and digging, and yeah, he knew exactly what was going on. He was part of this as well. So it's um it's time he faces justice as well. Yeah, Patricia, you're saying, don't you think that calling the boys testify against their mother and grandmother would be negatively by the jury, even though they contribute valuable detail? No, I don't think they're going to contribute valuable detail. I think you could get it out maybe as a prosecutor, but by the time it goes to trial, you're probably not going to get that information that's useful, because what normally happens in family court and especially criminal court is the boys are going to be programmed like they are already to, not say anything negative, and to parrot whatever instruction they're given by family members. So I think you might get it initially if you're law enforcement, a state attorney, maybe being there, being part of the interview, but having it survive and last to go to trial is not. But I think just it's worth checking out. I don't see them investing time in that though. Okay, let's see. We got um, yeah. So Charlie Sadie's asking, do I see pictures of Wendy's condo? I know it is on the market for a rent for 5,000 a month. It's only a 2 bedroom, so imagine the boys being there. I don't really care about the decorations. I just think about, two boys, 13 and 14, only having one bedroom to share. That's not a good situation, but um, we'll see what happens if they move out of there right here in the coming weeks. Yeah, Charlie, I've already said that. I think Wendy will be arrested right after Donna, at the latest this year, by the end of the year. It's got to happen. The wheels of justice are there. They need to get it revved up here. Yeah, so 30 life. You're saying, will Wendy's divorce lawyer be called for Donna's trial? I hope not. She's the most pointless witness I've ever watched in any trial. I think that the I think that what she did, if you counter what she said versus what Stephen Webster said, I think is very, very much non-credible. She made it sound like this was routine thing when he didn't have anything to worry about and all that kind of stuff. But when you hear the way Stephen Webster comes across so convincingly, so credible, and such a highly esteemed witness like he is, I think it just blows that other attorney out of the water. And the jury saw through that. There's no doubt in my mind. So yeah, I expect Stephen Webster to testify again. And if the defense wants to call that other attorney, let it happen. I was thinking there was a lot of scathing questions I would have asked her if I was either Sarah or Georgia crossing her, but they let her off pretty light. But in any event, they didn't win the case, so ultimately Charlie got convicted. So that's ultimately what matters. All right, so here we got yeah, Jamie, you're asking, do I think when Wendy's arrested, she'll actually go to trial or roll on everyone else on the plot? I think she's gonna be one of the last ones brought up, so I may be too late to be rolling on anybody else. And I don't think I'm gonna deal with her. I think unless she wants to cop a plea like to murder two or something, I think they're gonna take her to trial. And I think she's not gonna take any plea. She's gonna think she can beat the charges. So go ahead, take it, state attorneys. You guys can easily easily get through this. Okay, Amanda Janus want to know why I don't discuss psychology or pathology of these folks. Is it because the defense could use them help? Well, the reason I don't do that is because as a prosecutor, you don't bring up psychology evidence against the witnesses that the defense brings. It's unheard of. But what I do as a defense attorney is that as much as I possibly can. And so if I believe somebody's lying, a lot of times I'll bring up evidence of what I perceive to be different personality disorder issues. And sometimes I've even, like one time I recall, even had a nurse in the on voir dire. I asked the nurse about different mental illnesses, stuff like that I thought the star witness for the state had, and then I reminded the jury of what that nurse had said about personality disorders and whatnot, and how that ultimately helped my client. So, Yeah, you can use it as fence attorney, but as a prosecution, you don't want to get there and do like attacking the defendant, talking about their psych disorders and all that kind of stuff. We just don't do that in American jurisprudence. Yeah, Charlie City. I don't know why more calls haven't been released. I think they're under a seal by the court, so they wanted to give a few of them out, but not more. They don't want that much more coverage on what's going on with this case. That would be really nice to see it, though. Eventually, we will, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of coverage on that. Okay, Robin McBroom, sorry, is saying, wouldn't you take legal action if the DA had you labeled as an unindicted co-conspirator for a decade if you were innocent? Well, there's nothing you can really do. First of all, she wasn't an unindicted co-conspirator till a little over 2 years ago. I think it's close to 2.5 years ago. So, in any event, I think it goes to say that there's nothing you can do. That's what state has for evidence, and they can bring that forward. And there's a presumption of innocent under the law, but they can overcome that and say that in court. And it's a way to get in other evidence of co-conspirators, how they've testified to act in furtherance of the crime. So Jesse Pinkman saying, do states really prosecute for perjury? It's spelled a little bit different than that, but yeah, they do that. In fact, I saw a stat sheet showing that there's quite a few prosecutions for perjury in Florida, and there's even some in Tallahassee the last couple of years, within the last 5 years. So it's not common compared to other charges, obviously, like drugs and uh, and larceny, theft, and stuff like that. So. All right, so here we got yeah, Wesley John Holmes, you're saying, do I think Charlie could roll on Wendy to help himself and Donna? I just don't see him rolling at this point. I think it'd have to be something where he has no hope. Right now his appeal is pending, so he's put a lot of money into that and he's banking on that to set him free. So I think when all the doors close and whatnot, will he get a better deal if he does roll over on Wendy? I don't think so. So ultimately, he may just do it to spite Wendy if he does do that. All right, so here, let's see. Riding shotgun, saying, if Wendy makes it out of the country, will they spend money to actively search other countries to find her? I sure hope so. I don't think she's going to be able to flee. I think that if she does try to flee, they'll be after the trial, and at that point, they'll have such a tight window on how much freedom she'll have before they arrest her. But so I think it'll definitely be by the end of this year before they when they arrest her. Yeah, Fancy Fiction had she was one, I believe, that posted the Whole Foods photo. So thanks for that society page. All right, let's see. I think I was going the wrong direction there. All right, let's see. We're at and jump ahead here. Yeah, Jared, you're saying what mother thinks of changing a kid's name with 30 days of their kid's father being murdered is unthinkable. Well, yeah, but like I say, the narrative was, oh, that we could be next. I need to protect the boys. I mean, it's just so contrived nonsense. The jury's going to see right through that. That's why there wasn't a robbery. They took the risk of making it look more targeted, more personal, more based on hatred, evil hatred, and that's going to help do them in. Okay, so I'm up to 8:52 here, jumping ahead. And we have So Terry Henry's asked, "Do I think Wendy will be arrested sooner than she would have been when she moved to Texas?" I think that may help perk their interest. Like, hey, look, we need to do something. She could try to flee, and I mean, can you imagine if she fled and they didn't nab her in time? The embarrassment. I don't think Jack Campbell wants to go down as a guy that let Wendy Adelson slip out of his jurisdiction in the middle of the night, and he failed to act on it. So I think his legacy is going to be that he's the one that went after Wendy finally, not the other way around, that he let her flee or not be prosecuted and brought to justice. Yeah, so here we have Maria's asking, I don't think George's offering deals, no deals. I don't think so in these kind of cases. And I think that they've spent so much money. I don't think a plea bargain is in the works. So yeah, that's a good question. Janie, you're asking, do I ever think the boys will visit their grandmother in prison? They used to be very close to her. But I think, gosh, when she gets convicted of murdering their dad, how would you go visit your grandma unless you wanted to like just call her out on it, right? So that's wow, that remains to be seen. But yeah, that's can you imagine the very reason she murdered them? One of the main reasons they murdered Professor Markel, their boy's dad, was so they could be down in Florida. And now she'll probably never see the boys again. And yeah, what a talk about something boomerang and then turning out doing a complete 180 flip on you. Pepper's asking, would it be hard to change a minor's given name? Is it off that when he did it so quickly? She didn't do it that quickly. I think it took about 9 months, but she changed it with the kid's name in school right away. So legally, it wasn't truly effective, but I think she had the teachers calling the boys by the Adelson last name, so Markel name, which I would definitely bring that out at trial if I was prosecuting this case against Wendy and Donna. Yeah, we're going to see the witness list here pretty soon. Mandy Strong, you're saying that older men typically don't survive long after losing their wife. Harvey lost his wife. Yeah, in a way he did. I agree. Do you think Yo's health will drastically decline? Yeah, I do. I mean, not only do you have it's like sort of like a death, but then he's going to see her being convicted. I mean, that's that's going to be tough for him to take, and so can't predict how. I mean, he could last till 90 or something. I have no idea, but it's definitely not beneficial and doesn't help you live longer. Patricia S is asking, it seems Wendy's unable to keep silent about her role for this murder. Do you think she might have confided in someone else? Your opinion? I don't think she has. I think she was smart enough to realize that just keep your mouth shut. Don't talk to anybody about this. And so, and I think there's going to be more evidence that comes out though of conversations I believe she had, or maybe some kind of digital evidence that we've not seen in other trials. So it remains to be seen, but I'm optimistic. Man and Jane, you're asking, do you think that they'll let Harvey off the hook? You know, if they charge, imagine if they charged Wendy and Harvey, the kind of disaster that's going to put them all under. I mean, that's going to like drop a ton of bricks on every one of these Adelsons, and they're going to be trying to scramble to crawl out from under this crushing weight. It's going to be a free for all. They're going to be scrambling, and it's going to good things would happen, but I think it remains to be seen if that happens all at the same time. And this year, I think definitely Wendy. I think Harvey's going to be a waiting game to see how the other two pan out. But I just wish the prosecution would go ahead and move out on all of them. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Jennifer, I agree with you. Stephen Webster was great, and Wendy's attorney was so unbelievable. Yeah, it was just really a really bad testimony, making it sound like it was no big deal, and just not credible at all. Okay, so KSN is saying if Wendy gets arrested 2 days before Donna's trial, can and will Wendy be forced to testify in Donna's trial without immunity? No, they'd still have to use that state subpoena to call her as a witness, and they could do that even if she's arrested. That's my understanding of Florida law anyway. So that's why I think they're going to wait until after she testifies before they arrest her, sometime between after she testifies and shortly after Donna's convicted. So that I'm very confident of that. And we've had a lot of naysayers over the years saying that none of these other Adelsons are going to be prosecuted. And now look where we're at. We have one convicted, another one about to be convicted, and a couple more to go. Okay, let's see here. We have, yeah, that's a good question here. As a matter of fact, you're asking, do you think Donna and or Charlie still think Charlie's defense was great after all the talk about how bad it was by public opinion? Yeah, I think they really do still think he's great. I mean, why would you keep the guy if he didn't do great, and keep him for Donna as well? This is like the most bizarre. If you look at like the lawyer representation on this case, it's with so many defendants, it is like absolute bizarre, bonkers bizarre how crazy a lot of stuff is happening. Kathleen is asking, will Jeff LeCast be called to testify in Donna's trial? Absolutely. He's the star witness, one of the star witnesses, and he's absolutely crucial, especially for Wendi. And they really need to get this thing moving along. Yeah, you feel bad for Jeff LeCassie. He has to keep reviving this over and over again. But at least he's doing a great job for him, right? But yeah, it's like, wow, why don't they just roll up more of these together in one trial? So in any event. No, I'm not on Facebook. Somebody else is on Facebook. I have a LinkedIn account, but not on Facebook. Okay, let's see. Yeah, Dixie Doodles, not arresting Wendy is further victimizing Markel's. I mean, I think it really is to all of them, including the boys. It's just it's so disturbing on so many levels, right? Sure, you definitely see it that way. And let's see here. We have well, thank you, Patricia, saying I honestly think that your commentary could be a deterrent to someone else thinking of killing their spouse. I'm convinced of it. Well, I mean, if you have all this money in South Florida, you got a wonderful life you're living, and a lot of it's doing shady stuff and whatnot. But ultimately, you have a pretty easy life, and you're living like kings and queens. And then you have to resort to murder, and all this gets stripped away from you. And I mean, for what? Really, for what? It's just so outright evil. So hopefully there's this takes that kind of effect. But man, it's really amazing how many more murders we're seeing, isn't it? It just seems like they're really picking up. Yeah, Doug Farley, that's a good question. Why didn't law enforcement have any interest in tapping Wendy's phone? Well, if you stop think about it, everything they wrote up for the any kind of reports, they really left Wendy off it. They by all indications from my experience, they didn't think she was a suspect. They think her family did this. She sort of set the narrative for that, and she fooled Isom into thinking her hands were clean. I mean, she talked about her possible family being involved and all that kind of stuff. So he got totally tricked by her and outsmarted on that regard. But eventually they figured it out. But since she's not arrested yet, she's still come out ahead so far, I would say. But it's not going to last for long. This is a year that they're going to drop the hammer. All right, Skeeter Girl's asking, could you ever put your finger on Rashomond's reasons for calling Wendy's divorce attorney? Well, they're trying to diffuse the fact that, that Wendi was facing imminent bad things to happen in family court. And so her attorney came up there for the purpose of saying that, no, she had nothing to fear. It was all normal kind of thing, not a big deal. But no, it was a big deal. And there was more that was going to be filed. as well. So she was going to be in a world of hurt, both with, especially with her job with this Florida State law school, as well as, with the bar situation. That's what Dan was talking about. And he was tired of being run around and denied compliance with the agreement that they had signed up to. Patty's Playhouse. Hey, how are you doing, Patty? I don't know if you can get that anywhere else. John found that over in somewhere in Indonesia. So yeah, thanks, John. It looks pretty cool. So I appreciate you setting it up here. All right, so here we have. Okay. um, yeah, I guess MJG is saying, I understand Katie's testimony is tainted, but do you think she was still credible in Charlie's trial and could add to the evidence against Wendy? Yeah, I think so. I think that she's probably whole now and is afraid of, Sigfredo being mad at her for coming clean as much as she has. She's not coming fully clean, obviously, but in any event, I do think that I think she was credible enough to help set the scene. And really, the main thing wasn't even so much what she said. Was if you just compare the way she came across to Charlie came across, do you really think she looks like the person that could threaten Charlie and Charlie be afraid and come up with the third of $1 million just of Katie's threat? It's absolutely a joke, preposterous. There's no way a jury would ever believe that, and they didn't, and they're not going to believe it this next round either. All right, let's see. Yeah, and Roberta Glass. Hi, Roberta. Yes, self love you definitely. We will cover the arrest, and that is going to be. It's not going to be a time that we're all celebrate and stuff like that. It's sort of sad. It's almost so far down the road late that it's like, wow, finally. But there's going to be a lot of satisfaction that at least the state attorney's office had the courage to go forward on this finally. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, just me dancing. Well, they've taken so long. You're asking why you can't understand why they're taking long to arrest Wendy. Maybe because they want to have her testify again. All that. I just don't get it. I would have charged her a long time ago and put all these Adelsons in the firing chamber and just start mowing them down. Take them to trial. Just line them up to a jury. Let them tell a ridiculous story to a jury, and jury isn't going to have any of this nonsense. Yeah, please keep your language clean. Thanks, Private Eye Posse. Appreciate you. We need to be professional on here. We have a lot of great folks following this stuff, and I'm trying to keep it above board. And I'm trying to have a lawyer type conversation with you as if we were talking in the court and in front of the judge. So let's just keep it let's keep it clean. I know there can be a lot of angry, frustrating frustration brewing because of this thing lasting so long. I mean, I can tell you at CrimeCon, the number of people that came up and expressed how angry they were that Wendy has gotten away with this for so long. That was a resounding number one comment. It's like, what's taking so long with Wendy? So if any of you in the state attorney's office are listening to this, do the right thing. And I think you will. And we're waiting on this for way too long. All right. Thanks for thinking about it, Charlie. All right. Let's see here. Yeah. Patty Ann is saying, wouldn't it be awesome if Wendy's phone was tapped too? They just didn't release calls. Yeah, I didn't think they thought she was a part of it. And they sort of just like overlooked that part of it. But I wish they would have. I really wish they would have gone after the WhatsApp information. Maybe there's still information out there, but yeah, she's definitely communicating and trying to figure out and help steer the follow up before and after the murder. Yeah, Murder by Maestro. How you doing? Isom is retired. Yes, he has. He's still available to testify, as far as I know. But especially if he's one of the key witnesses against Wendi and how he interviewed her and stuff like that, and her statements coming in, the prosecution's case. I mean, they need to get this thing moving along. He's not getting any younger, and you just don't want to risk it. So I really think the pressure's on the prosecution to execute this year the rest of them and prosecution of Wendi. Yeah, I would say, Janie Garnett, that you're asking, do I think Wendy's being protected by someone with a lot of influence, law enforcement person, billionaire type? I do not think that's going on to this extent now. I think that the political connections they had previously have dried up. And I think the fact with Charlie being convicted and Donna next, I think there's a lot of folks that are sort of like just want to wash their hands clean of anything having to do with the Adelsons. Let's see here. Tennis Girl 101's asking, how do we know Wendy's phone wasn't tapped? Well, it's not been a part of the discovery packet, so that's how we know that. So let's see here. I'm jumping ahead. We're at 9:23. I'm up to 9:18. Yep, Issam is retired, definitely. Megs Smear is saying, why do you think Garcia called Hari during the first trip attempt? I don't believe that story that he looked up Adelson's number and dialed it and it went directly to Harvey's number. I don't think a dentist would answer a forwarding call from his dental clinic on off-duty hours. I just don't believe that at all. So there's something else there. Maybe he was trying to find some information out or verify something. We don't know, but just definitely having his number is suspicious because it was a cell number. It wasn't the office number. All right, let's see here. Thanks, Roberta. Yeah, she was saying, why didn't Isom take a road trip to Miami to interview 3 people? Major oversight. I mean, eventually they got down there and they looked for information with the rental car and stuff like that. But I think it was actually the FBI. So the FBI has done a lot of heavy lifting on this. So I would say that they're the ones that were going to interview Donna and Harvey before that got diverted in the last minute before Charlie's trial. So, in any case, man, Gene, I do think there's going to be a movie on this. It's going to have to be more like a series. I think doing one movie on this, all the rabbit holes on this kind of thing. I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be too many things to cover here. So somebody said Law Belleville's here, so thanks for joining. So Mandy Strong, you're asking about, you check Charlie, can he receive visitors again? Yeah, he's in South Dakota. They're not going to tell us what his condition is, if he's in lockdown or stuff like that. So we don't know if he has any visitors. They're not going to give us any visitors log like they do in Florida. The laws are much more protective in South Dakota, like they are in most states. I mean, Florida is really an exception compared to most states. That's the most open with records of any state I've ever seen, even way more than Texas. Okay, Coco's asking who was protecting the Adelsons from being charged earlier. So I have a video on that. If you go back to, I covered that. The connections that the Adelsons had with a powerful politician, Weinstein, I think was a big reason that that they weren't being prosecuted. And so I got a whole video on that. If you want to go back, circle back on that. So let's see here. Rosemary, you're asking if Georgia will use Donna's arrest video in trial. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I don't think that really shows anything revealing, and so I don't see that happening. Normally, they don't show those at trial. Somebody's saying, Carol, you're saying that Detective Isom died in 2023. I have not heard that. I don't think that's the case at all. So yeah, thanks, Roxanne. You're saying Detective Isom is alive. Yeah, thankfully. Yeah, Lyle Bellevue, I agree that Harvey Call is weird, but it's another data point to show there was some kind of connection. And we're probably never going to hear from Sigfredo. Another weird situation of like, how could this guy be so stupid and not try to flip and cooperate? Maybe he doesn't have a lot of weight to put on the Adelsons because he sort of dealt with them through Katie, but it's just the way all of those have behaved is just so outrageously strange. I mean, the only one that was really the smartest group, smartest one of the bunch was Luis Rivera. He was able to flip and get a huge reduction, right? Rosemary is asking, why do you think Katie Nim never threw Wendi under the bus? I think part of it's we'll never know, but she's obviously not coming fully clean, and maybe she's I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. These characters. What's really frustrating is I believe you get a good defense attorney that could really knock some heads around and get some sense into these defendants, but I just think a lot of justice was not coming to fruition because you had weak lawyering going on. I mean, really, I think that's it. I think if Katie would have had a good lawyer, there's no doubt in my mind. If I was an attorney, she would have gotten out of jail really fast because she wouldn't have been messing around with this nonsense of claiming she knows nothing about it when the evidence showed she was definitely involved in it. So it's this it's this weak lawyering, weak pathetic lawyering. I would say really harms justice for a lot of things. And look at what her sentence is. She didn't. You're telling me her lawyers didn't try to talk her into cutting a deal. I mean, we don't know what happened behind the doors, but I tell you what, going to trial twice when you got 11-1 vote to convict the first time is just outright idiotic. It's absolute outright idiotic. I would never agree to go to trial a second time with a defendant. If I couldn't talk them into it, I'd get out of it and move on and get somebody else in there that wouldn't let a client commit utter destruction and self-suicide that way. Richard, you're asking if Katie got any sort of a deal for her testimony. No, she did not. She came on her own, and she could potentially get one down the road if the state decides to initiate that on her own. But she came in there with no plea bargain, in effect, no guarantee of anything. So it's really disappointing she didn't come clean better. Hey, there's Katie Kool-Lady too. Welcome. I saw some of Katie's show this week, and she was talking about how the boys have such massive suffering, and it's basically, without them getting counseling for life, that they're going to have trauma with them that goes on forever. And she's a forensic RN by trade, so she has some really good insight in that, and it's just really tragic. And yeah, it's something that will not be missed by a jury. Just keep that in mind. A jury will absolutely be incensed and just be jumping at the chance to convict an Adelson if they're on the jury there. The standard is low for the prosecution. They just got to get some of this evidence in, and I guarantee you, Wendy's going down, Donna's going down, and Charlie would too. Harvey would too, just like Charlie. So they need to move out and be bold, strong, and courageous. Yeah, that's something we've talked about. Charlie Sadie, you're asking, wow, to think about Charlie and mom will never see or hug each other again. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. So even if Charlie testifies in this upcoming trial, I mean, he's never gonna. That'd be the only time he sees his mom face to face. Even then, he's not gonna be able to hug her. They'll keep him separated in the jail. So, yeah, just what a waste, right? So many children's lives destroyed. Okay, so Mama B, you're saying that I don't believe Sigfredo was the sharpest tool in the shed, too much drugs and alcohol. Yeah, but once he's in jail, I mean, I've had plenty of clients on jail, in jail, awaiting charges, awaiting felony charges, including felony drug charges with the feds. I had one facing life without parole as well, and just like an Adelson. And after a while, the drugs do leave their system. The alcohol that they don't have access to does clean them out, and eventually they do get some sobriety and clarity. So that's not the issue with Sigfredo. I don't think he was going to get access to any of that in Leon County Jail. So why he's so stubborn like that, it's just really really baffling. One of the many twists and turns of this case that make this case so unique for true crime followers. Katie's 93 is saying, "What does Sigfredo have to lose by telling all?" And Katie, do you think that they were promised something more? I think that could have been the case with Katie. I don't know about Sigfredo, but none of this stuff adds up. I mean, what could they promise you that you wouldn't just absolutely do jump at the chance, get out of jail now, kind of thing that Katie had, to go see her kids, and now she'll never see her kids again, except in a prison. So, oh, thanks, LG. That's sweet of you. Appreciate you. LG's been following us for since the beginning, so a lot of hilarious commentary from you. Yeah, so Cat Love Dreamin' Peach is saying it seems like he's passed away. I don't know if that's him or not. It could be another person with the same name. So I hope you're wrong on that. And you're saying you got it from, I guess you're not saying where you got that from. So hopefully it's not an obituary for the one that we're talking about. Very likable guy, Detective Isom. He just got tricked and bamboozled by Wendi in that first interview, and it lasted for a while. But eventually, Tallahassee came back and tried to get more arrests of these Adelsons. But the problem is, you had Willie Meggs not willing to do the right thing and playing the corruption games. Yeah, Joy Matt saying Sigfredo was a shooter. He'll never get out. Now he tries to claw someone's eyes out. Yeah, I heard he tried to do some kind of eye gouge on some kind of inmate up there. So he is one violent, nasty guy, and he needs to stay behind, locked up there. Law Bellevue is asking, will I be at Donna's trial? I know John will be there, and I plan to be there for the very end of it. At least I hope to be, like I was last time. It was nice to see the closing arguments, and how the jury was just basically uh, just completely tuned out to Rashbaum. Rashbaum was so tone deaf. It was just so much a disaster of a closing, and to counter that with a brilliant closing by Georgia and all the great video that she had, it was really stellar, and that's why I called it like a something you'd see on TV, something you'd see on a crime show production, and that's why Charlie, he happened to hear that, and he's been talking about that ever since. How this is like a Dateline special, the video they filmed on there, and it was. I mean, it was a masterful job, brilliant job. So yeah, true crime wifey. Thanks. You're saying that Fancy Fishing cleared this up. That it's not our Detective Isom. I think that's been confirmed. Yeah. So thanks for clarifying that. So yeah, it's I think we'll probably have more people that show up to this trial with with the greater attention this case is getting. I mean, think of how many more channels are covering this case than what there was over a year ago when when John and I started this. So it's really picking up steam, and I think it's really helping all you guys helping push the envelope and get the state attorneys to realize that they got a strong case against these Adelsons. They just need to move out and execute. Okay, so let's see. So we have Patricia saying rumors that Katie wanted to take the plea deal was talked out of by her incompetent and or complicit counsel. Opinion the Adelsons did pay her lawyer. I thought there had to be evident that there had to be evidence that there was of a payment by the Adelsons. Don't know for sure, but whether there was or wasn't, I'm just telling you, by her not taking the deal and then getting stuck with these charges, life without parole, it is like absolutely. I mean, this is like textbook bad lawyering that they should teach all crim law students. Is absolute. I mean, think about it. She could have had no lawyer representing her and gotten out right away. Instead, she's got 3 lawyers that can't even get her out of pleading after the first trial finished 11-1 guilty. So you go 11-1 guilty and you roll the dice again, you're going to get convicted. The prosecution fixed their problems. And so, yeah, it's just worst case of lawyering I've ever seen on any true crime case. I'll tell you that. So it looks like we have a lot of followers of this injustice against some Markels following this. So you guys are awesome. Joining here on Wednesday night, and everyone's support for this is really awesome to see. And like I say, the Markels are very humble and very gracious, and they're very much honored to have you all support. Okay, so here you're asking Anna, could Wendy's kids be called testify against that? I just don't see that happening. That came up earlier, but I just don't see it happening. The boys are going to be too much in a cult type environment to get the truth out of them. I mean, you might be able to slip in some kind of evidence that they might say to you, but they're not gonna be really good for trial, I would say. But I'd be curious to see what they say about like the photograph, the picture of their dad that's above their beds that the prayers said to every night, and whatever Wendy said at trial. I mean, this is absolutely non-credible. Whoops, sorry. This is will Tallahassee have any problems finding a jury for Donna's trial? Jen, I tell you, is saying I don't think so at all. There's so many people that don't follow this case. I think there's a lot more than there was before. But Tallahassee is a big enough town that there's going to be enough people that haven't heard about this case. And even if they have heard about it, they haven't formed an opinion. They're not really paying close attention, so they'll be able to sit for it. I think they'll be fine. And it's really hard. We've seen local attorneys there, like I think Stephen Webster was one of them that said, them granting motions to have the trial location changed are really extremely rare in Florida. So that's not going to happen. Yeah, Mary Hirsch is saying, wouldn't it be something if after all this, Wendy gets convicted and the boys go to Canada to be raised by the Markels? Yeah, that would be some form of justice, right? So don't know if that's going to happen because it's another country. I've never had that situation come up, so I can't say anything from experience in that regard. But yeah, there's definitely going to be much better living environment for the boys if they're taken away from the cult type environment they're living in now. So Bojangles asking who's Donna's lead attorney. It's still Daniel Roshbaum. They have this other guy, Alex Morris, who's a local there in Tallahassee, who actually went and visited Donna the other day from like 5:30 to 9:30, which has been really rare. So I don't really expect anything out of that. I think you'll see more of his visits as the trial's getting closer. But she's talking to Roshbaum pretty much every day, especially when she right at around 8 o'clock. Looks like when she's ready to go for bed check, she calls Roshbaum. So That's just a bizarre relationship, and that's all I'm going to say. I've never seen that before, where an attorney's taking client calls at 8 o'clock every night, but so be it. Yeah, there could be a request for that, Katie. Change of venue request for Donna, but it's not going to be granted. So whether they do it just as something to show that they're representing her, I don't have a problem with that if they want to ask for that. But it's not going to be granted. So no worries. The trial's going to proceed as scheduled. Yeah, Katie McBann was acting delusional. I mean, to get turn away that deal, she probably thought if she got off the Adelsons to take care of her financially. Yeah, if they didn't offer it, I'm sure she thought that Charlie owed her for life, right? So, but it's not going to happen. So, all right, let's see. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about Winnie's boyfriend and that kind of stuff. That's not really relevant as a prosecutor. So, and I don't have any intel on that either. So I'm not really concerned with that. I'm just trying to take this from like the prosecution mindset. Yeah, Lily Forrest. He did say that. You're saying, did you hear that Rashbaum said that Donna's like a mom or something along the line? Yeah, he's trying to humanize her and make her seem all nice and sweet and a grandma type that would never do anything to hurt the boys and all kind of stuff. I mean, it's just you listen to the evidence that comes out at trial and the way she sounds on the wiretaps with the FBI, and jury's going to see right through all that. So any kind of smoke and mirrors they try to present as a defense are going to be they'll be blown out of the water. Yeah, tennis girl, there will be pretrial hearings. We just don't have a date yet. There'll be some motions filed and then there's some hearings set after that. So we'll be covering that as well. Sir Howard, you're saying I'm sure that Dan's children are curious about their paternal grandparents. Well, you'd be surprised how brainwashing can work. Okay. It has unbelievable toxicity and devastating effects of changing kids' memory, their desire to be with other family members, and if they don't really know who they are, and they're told bad things about the Markels, and what are they going to do? You know, so it's just the thing's just so toxic and cruel. The witness list, Wesley John Holmes, should be coming out, I think, on in the coming weeks. Yeah, yeah, true crime wife. Yeah, they're not going to be granting the relocation, change of venue request. So not going to happen. I can guarantee you that. I don't know if Wendy's watching this, but I think some of their handlers are. I think their trolls are. I think they have PR folks that are trying to present their side to indicate that there's not enough evidence or some ridiculous stuff like that. So I think that I think that's a wasted effort. Erica's asking, "Do I know if Danny's boys have social media?" No, I do not. And I sort of want to leave the boys alone, not really dig that up. And I don't. I mean, obviously, we're not going to. Nobody's going to reach out to them and try to stir anything up with them. So they need to have some independence in their own life, right? They got it hard enough. Yeah. So Mon Geezy is saying, "Why did Wendy need to prove to Isom that she was so busy in the morning of the murder, completing important tasks like stirring oatmeal?" Yeah, she had this planned out. I think Um, it was definitely a conscious of guilt kind of thing. She's kind of trying to come up with all these little details to try to like stretch the time limit and look like she's so busy and too busy and rushed to have any time to be part of this murder plot, right? Well, sorry, all the evidence says otherwise. All right, so let's see who we got. Yeah, Linda Lawton saying all teens use social media. So if they're on social media, maybe this habit where they have a different name. Maybe they're allowed to do it now, but they have to have a different name or something like that. So who knows? Don't don't have any interest in following that up. So Bojangles asking, do I think Don is currently paying Rashbaum? I don't think they're currently paying. I think they've already paid him. I think they probably would have given him a lump sum. When I see a lump sum and of a huge amount of dollars being paid on a case, and you don't have a lot of depositions, that's another indicator that they don't really need to take depositions. And think about it, the more upfront money you have, the less harder you have to work to kind of justify billable hours. So that's what I see for attorneys generally. So I don't see there's much motive for him to be bogged down in all these depositions. Plus, they have other depositions from before, so that could be also a reason why you wouldn't do that. So, Katie, you're asking, do I think the local attorney will have jury second? I think he's going to help out. I think he's going to try to make it sound like, hey, I'm one of y'all, and what do you think of this? I think him and Rashbaum will be taking turns asking questions. And of course, those individual questions are back there away from the public eye. But John got back there during the last trial for Charlie and got to listen to some of the questions. So that was interesting. I just wish they'd have it more for the public consumption. All right, so let's see here. Let me jump ahead. See a lot of familiar names here. Society page. Yeah, he's saying he'd be disappointed if when he hasn't seen at least one of his videos, one of his great videos. Charlie's appeal should be coming out pretty soon too. The two asked about when that timing of that would be. So in any event, I think we'll have some more coverage stuff coming up here. Things are going to be picking up. And as I've said before, there's going to be some surprises, some twists and turns that we see on these cases. So Patricia Kindness, you're asking, do I think the other lawyer will be more effective than Rashbaum? I think he's a better attorney. You just don't have anything really good to work with. So I think in the end, it's not going to matter. And so they'll still blame the jury. And Rashbaum still say they presented on a great case. So there you go. Yeah. So Annie, I agree with you. You're saying I think Donna was a mastermind. She's one of those kids, Wendy Byer. No, I disagree. I think it was Wendi. And so if you look at what Wendi was facing, I think she was desperate. And she was the one that kept feeding the information about how horrible Dan was to her mom, trying to motivate drastic, cruel action. And it worked. Skystone saying, do I believe Wendi when she said she didn't take a shower? You're talking about the morning of the shooting of Dan Markel. So I do think that that's true. I think she's probably worried and too upset and that was part of her look to act like she's too scattered, run around and didn't have time to do things she wanted to get done that day. And the last thing she'd have available to do is like to participate in a murder. Right. So I think that was part of her strategy. So let's see here. Stuart Wiley's asking, could Charlie get parole if he rolls on Wendi and Donna? Maybe in theory, but I think in practice he's not going to get any reduction. So I don't think it. I think he could try to roll over and hope that the state attorney's office offers him some kind of reduction, but I just don't see that happening. So if he rolls over, it's probably going to be sheer revenge against his sister Wendi. Erica Vigel's asking, have you tried getting any jail calls from Charlie or Donna? No, I have not tried, and I just think that there's a lag on those. And so, here, Leslie M. Thank you. You're saying notice of agreed extension of time, 3 days file in Charlie's appeal today. So thank you for that. So, so it looks like a 30-day extension, and those are automatically going to be granted. So if it's filed today, count it 30 days out from now. And then we'll see what's in there. I think one of the things will be ineffective assistance of counsel. I've said that ineffective is like one of the main things appellate attorneys go for. It's one of the easier ways to get stuff reversed, but I don't think there's anything in there that they're going to find that the court's going to see as a reason to reverse anything. Rebecca Wilson saying, "Do I think that Wendi, once convicted and possibly the boys, see the truth for just that and possibly turn on her? She'll apologize to him as a result of that or admit to her guilt." No, she's somebody like her is never going to admit to guilt. Never, especially with her boys. No way. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Not even on her deathbed. She's not going to admit it for nothing. Never. Let's see. Jen is asking, how long do you think the murder was planned, and who do you believe initially conceived the plan? I think the murder was hatched. Well, we heard from like it back in 2013. Charlie was looking into it summer of 2013. So I think it was probably like a year and a half before he was actually killed, or close to a year and a half. They were talking about it, planning it, and looking for the right opportunity, trying to find the right person. I think it really got ratcheted up. If you stop to think about it, who got groomed in the fall around October? The year before Dan got killed in July. So October of 13, that's the same time Jeff Lacasse is being groomed by Wendi to be set up as a fall guy, and the same time that Charlie is pursuing Katie to be part of finding the hitman. Remember, she was asked in October, does she know any kind of people that can rough somebody up? And she said yes. If she would have said no, Charlie would have dropped her like a rock at that point. Nothing would have happened. That's my opinion. But when she said yes, Charlie's going, I got to milk this for everything I can get. And I got to make the bucks big to make it enticing. And that's how it happened. All right. So True Crime Wife is saying they keep convincing themselves that the dollar is worth it. Dubin was horrible. Yeah, I think that it was a sad state with those jury selection folks. It was really is really amazing. It was just a terrible display in a courtroom to have these attorneys running around like that. It is really bizarre. I've never seen anything like that where you hire outside experts that just do voir dire and then flee the scene after all done with. It's just really you got to have a whole different strategy than that. Yeah, okay. Charlie Sadie, here I agree with you. Wendi was 100% the mastermind. Look, she's smartest of all them all, not to put herself in any wiretaps, continue to keep her mouth shut. Yeah, but I don't like to use the word smart with that because she's not smart enough to get away with it, and she will go down. So anybody that commits a murder and helps play part in planning of it and whatnot, you're not smart. It's just outright evil. All right, so let's see. We're at 9:55. Thanks, guys, for your support. It's really nice to see. You guys had a lot of good questions as always. You guys are really smart about this. And if any of you guys that are new to this case, I mean, the kind of questions we get here are very, very, very well thought out, very probing, and some of them are repeats from many months ago. But I do want to answer some of those as well for the new folks as well. And I just urge you to keep digging up, keep digging through these different channels. There's so many videos we have of the different interviews from the key players in this case. So, yeah. So in any event, all right, I'm going to go ahead and, is there one last question? Let's see. Bojangle, is evidence against Wendi circumstantial? Yeah, I don't get caught up in that at all. I just don't think the difference between circumstantial and direct is a big deal. I look for evidence, whether no matter if I'm a prosecutor or defense attorney, I look for the evidence and then I figure out the best way to package it to get it for the jury or the trier fact and make sure that that is admissible. And in this particular case, the circumstantial evidence against Wendi is so strong. Circumstantial evidence many times is more direct or more convincing and stronger way to prove someone's guilt than direct. I mean, direct evidence could be one person saying they saw Wendi at the crime scene, but maybe that witness crumbles under cross-examination. And so what is direct evidence doing in that situation? But when you got hundreds of indicators against Wendi and her involvement, little things she did, things she said, things she set up, think where she went, who she talked to, where she drove, all those kind of indicators, what emails she sent, what she did about the TV and all that kind of stuff, how the TV got broke. I mean, you go down these rabbit holes, and it's just overwhelming the amount of evidence you could have against her. And all you need is one decent one, like her driving the crime scene, and that could be enough to have a jury say, you know what, I think she did it, and all this other evidence, these little tidbits of information, some of which are very strong and convincing, like the denial of visitation for the grandparents. That alone is like a huge motive for the murder, right? And the stuff that Stephen Webster talked about. So there's just a massive amount of gold mine information against her that it's all going to be coming out in court. And it is going to happen. I would say the indictment's going to happen this year. Yeah, Teresa M is agreeing that the evidence is huge. They just need to go after it. And so it's very much going to be interesting to see what happens in the end of this year. And it's going to be great vindication for all those that have stuck around and pleaded for justice for the Markels. So in any event, that's it, everybody. I wish y'all a great night. Thanks so much for your support of this cause. And I may come back on again in the next couple days. Don't know for sure. Maybe I'll come on again Friday. I had some new equipment that John got me and Ben installed, but I wasn't able to operate it properly tonight, so I just pulled the plug on it. But in any event, I'm not that tech savvy. So in any event, I'll get some more help on that. And but in any event, thanks for joining us, and I'll talk to y'all later down the road. Thank you. Have a good night.